Greetings, programmers! Busted Thumbs back again with Fluffy Wishes.
Hello!
And we're here for the 14th episode of our Frogger competition program. And probably our last one.
Yay!
Yeah, I think we're there. I think, if you recall, the last two things that we need to do is to make sure that when our frog gets into the water area, if he's on top of a log, that he drifts over with the log. And if he's not on top of a log, he's supposed to splash and then go back, lose a life, and go back to right here. The middle purple bar. Okay, so let's start. We had already started a little bit on the splash thing. Remember, we had a check for splash. It was down here, and all it was doing was checking if you touched the lily pad. If he's touching a lily pad when he's done, this gets called right here, which is when we're done with a jump. This is saying right when we're finished a jump, we're going to check to see if it's a splash. So what we want to do is, if we didn't win the game, let's just make sure that we just stop this script, because if we're done, we don't need to check for this other thing. But if not, what happens is we want to find out if we're not touching a log. If we're not touching, and our logs are turtles, but they're called logs. Also, this should only happen if we are if our row number is inside the log area. So we should only do this. Well, there needs to be two conditions. If our row number we call that current row, I believe. Current row is less than, and that will be the number of log rolls or turtle rolls. Turtle row count. Turtle row count is 4. There is one row before that, so I think it needs to be turtle row count plus 1. So let's go ahead and make sure we add that plus 1 inside there as well. So when we splash, we need to play a sound. That was one of the requirements, and then we need to reset ourselves. I was looking through the sounds earlier, and the one that I liked the most, the one that sounded most like a splash to me, was the cymbals. Let me see if I can just find, maybe it was this one? Maybe. There, that one. That sounds a little bit like a splash. So I'm going to take this guy right here. And we can go ahead. We don't need meow, but we do have cymbals. So let's go ahead and play that cymbal sound when we splash. And it scrolled us out of the area, so let's get back to where we were. So the very first thing we want to do is play that cymbal sound. Then we want to change our lives by 1. Change our lives by -1. And now, if our lives are less than 1 at this point, we need to just be game over. So we did that somewhere else. We did that when we were checking to hit if we're hit by a car. We said if our lives was less than 1, then we need to set is running to false and broadcast game over, and then be done. So let's do that. And that's lives again. Lives become less than 1. We're going to go ahead and set is running to false. Then we are going to broadcast game over. And I'm just to be paranoid, I'm going to stop this script again. Alright, so that's the case. We've changed our lives by 1. If we still have lives, then we need to just simply reposition ourselves. So in that case, what we want to do is we want to set our x to 0. We want to set our current column, not our current column, our current row. And the current row needs to be the total number of rows in half. How did I do that before? When we hit by the car, we changed our lives. Otherwise, we set our current row. Oh, right. And what I need to be setting is our jump start X and our jump start Y. So I need to be doing both of these things. I just need to change them a little bit. So let's just go ahead and duplicate all of this stuff. Really, I could have probably put this all into one method so that I don't have to do it twice, but let's go ahead and do it this way anyway. So the jumping direction is none, but it should be anyways, because when we got to a splash, that's what, but that's okay. We can do that. What we want to do, and that is wrong, my goodness. Current row should be car row count plus turtle row count plus 2. And over here, we just want it to be in this case, we just want it to be turtle row count plus 1. Our start Y, this is exactly what it should be because it's based on the current row, and our jump start X should be 0. Should be pointing in that direction, and we can go ahead and position the frog on screen again, I suppose. That will move him to his correct position. Alright, so we check for our splash. Let's see if this works. Yeah, because we're positioning him on the screen, we probably don't need that. Let's try that. Because we called this bottom one. Alright, let's give it a try. Make him a little bit bigger so everyone can see. Oh no, this car's gonna get us. Didn't splash, which is good. Splashed. Perfect. Splash. Oh! That was interesting. Why didn't it catch it on that one?
Because that was your third life, and it didn't splash for some reason. Huh.
See, it should have done it right when we completed our jump there. Oh, and we just barely touched that, so that's interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to make the lily pad a little smaller to fix that. Interesting. Alright, well, let's stop here. I want to do the drift with the log here, make sure we get that in. These little things are just little adjustments. Make sure we catch it in the right spot. Alright, so let's make sure we drift with the log. When we want to drift with the log is not when he's jumping, it's when he's not jumping. And so when we're positioning the frog on the screen, the very first thing we check is whether he's jumping or not. And if he's not jumping, then we're in this condition, and if he is jumping, then we're down here. So we probably want to make a new block that is check for drift. Something like that. And we'll move that down in a little bit, but let's go ahead and after we set the X and Y to the jump start X and jump start Y, actually we could do it before because we can just set we can adjust jump start X when we're going. So let's go ahead and check for the drift, and we'll adjust jump start X by the amount of drift that should be going on. Okay, let's move these guys up here. Make sure that's not overlapping something else. It is. Means I gotta move that a little bit over too. Okay, let's put that guy right here. Now to check for the drift, we should only be drifting if we are in a log row and we're not jumping. So we're already checked that we're not jumping. So let's make sure we're in a log row. So that would be if our row is greater than 0 and it's less than the log row, the turtle row count plus 1. So there's two things to check for. And greater than. So our current row is what we're going to check on both of them. Greater than 0, and it has to be less than something plus 1. Plus is right there. Plus 1. And that would be the turtle row count. Alright. So only if those things are true are we going to do any of this work. And if they are true, then the amount that we need to move it is the velocity of that particular lane in the appropriate direction, right? Because some go left and some go right.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to multiply that by the number of frames that have happened in this tick. Alright, so we have two conditions. One is if we're going left and one is if we're going right. And so that we keep track of left and right in this list down here, right? It is the... No, we don't keep track of it in a list. So where do we keep track of it? We keep track of it on the turtles themselves, whether they're going left and right. So we're just going to have to duplicate that. So if the lane number mod 2 is equal to 0, then it's right. Otherwise, it's left. So we're going to have to do that for current rows. We're going to use the mod operator again, because it's every other one. Current row mod 2 is equal to 0. Then I think it's the opposite of this one because we're not counting. Our lane number has to add in the amount for the lily pad. So that means that if we're at 0, then it's going left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if we're at 1, then it's going right. Okay, so this is left. That means we have to go in a negative direction. That means we simply need to change jumpstart X. Jumpstart X by the velocity times the frames. So let's put times the frames. And the velocity is this list here, turtle velocity. So it's item something of turtle velocity. Oops, and that's the wrong place. Did you see what I just did there? Put it in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so that should still be a mod 2. Okay. Now the item is going to be the current row. No, something minus the current row. It's going to be the total number of turtle rows minus the current row. No, turtle rows plus 1 minus the current row. I believe that's right. So something plus something minus something. So plus 1 is, and then we're going to put the number of turtle rows in here, turtle row count, and subtract out the current row. That should give us the index. Oh, but that doesn't, that would give us the count by 0 number. Not the count by 1 number, because that's how Scratch works. So we have to add 1 to this, which means that I don't think we need that plus 1, since we're just going to have to add another one later. So let's just do that. Pop it in there. And that is correct actually for this bit here, because that means it's to the right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's duplicate that, put it up here, and then we just have to do one more thing, which is to multiply by -1. For this one. Okay. Now, that's kind of taking up an awful lot of space, so let's just move him way down. Come on, come on. Move him down to the bottom. Maybe over here. Right there. We'll put that guy right there. And we can put these guys back kind of where they belong. And let's see if it drifts.
Yay.
Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay. We'll make this guy bigger again. Give him a play. Jump up here. Stick him on a turtle. Not drifting. Drifting the wrong way.
Only in
So
this.
we got our column count off, right? Now this guy's probably going to drift in the other way as well.
Yeah.
All right. No problem. No problem. No problem. Make little mistakes here and there. It's okay. So we obviously got this wrong. Right here. These two need to be switched. Just like that. And this guy right here wasn't getting that particular row. So let's try that again. Make him bigger. Oh, again, he's not drifting on that particular row. That's better though. Well, he's not going the right speed. I love that. We do need to make our lily pit smaller. Let's make that a little bit smaller. That takes 10% off of it, right? All right. So it just means that we've got this little drift guy up. The where we're picking the turtle velocity is not the correct one. So the turtle row count minus the current row. So let's say he's in this row here. The turtle row should here be 0, 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he should be 4. That's his current row. Alright, so his current row, oh, yep, and that's the problem. His current row is 4. The turtle row count is 4, so that would be at 0. So we need that to be 1 more than that, because this is asking for item 0 of turtle velocity. So there needs to be a +1 on this, and that probably means that this is okay. So let's go ahead and put a +1 on that guy right there. And do it on this guy as well. And that's the way to fix these problems when you think you've got the math all right, that's great, and you try and put it together, but sometimes you just need to take an example and just kind of think about plug it all in there and do the math in your head, and you find out, oh, you're just off by 1 or something like that. So let's go ahead and give it one more try. There we go. Now he's drifting with the turtles. Look at that. Drifting with the turtles at the right velocity. Notice that? And we win. The lily pads are the right size. We're drifting at the right size. We have our timer countdown. We have our splashes happening. He's getting reset. I think we're there. There's one little bug inside this. We did see that he didn't check his splash with every little jump, but we can go figure that out and fix that at some time. But we're at the end of this episode, and I think we're also at the end of our competition. So I'm really happy about that. Let's go ahead and take one little look at what it was that we were supposed to be doing in the competition. I think we've done everything, which is the non-extras behavior. So all these things: cars move, the logs move, the frog moves. He jumps with an animation. He returns to the first platform if he's hit by a car, and lives decrease. All of those things. Now, if you've been paying attention and made it all the way through this with us, thank you very much for joining us. Clearly, it took us a lot longer than 1 hour to do it. If you were really doing this in a competition, you would not do what we just did. If you were doing this in a competition, and this competition is a little funny the way it's written, you would actually kind of go through and say, hey, you know, how many points would I get and how much time would it take to do each one of these? And things like setting a variable like time to 30 and lives to 30 is so easy that it's almost instant. It's just a few seconds to do and you get a point for that. So you'd obviously do all of those things. But if you look down here, some of these extra features, like at the beginning of the game, choose your character, that probably takes about 5 minutes to do and you would get 8 points for it. Whereas we found that creating the cars coming into view from left and right and really making them move in the right way, that took us probably 40 minutes. and that only gets you 5 points. So, you know, if you were really doing a competition, you'd game it out a little bit more to see how to get the most points possible without necessarily having a correct game. What we've done instead is we've showed you how to use a game loop to create a game and showed you some techniques that you can use on all sorts of games. So hopefully you're not thinking of this just in terms of one little competition, but in terms of learning how to make interesting games inside of Scratch, and that's what we've shown here. I had fun.
I had fun.
I think it's a fun little game too.
Yeah.
The little guy splashes around. I'm going to share this project as soon as this video is all done, and we've posted it up online. So feel free, if you like, to go through and modify it. Especially if you want to try out some of the extras, you simply just remix this particular program and this Scratch game, our Frogger competition, and make it your own, and maybe try out some of the extras or add some more levels or do whatever you want to do. Thank you very much for watching us. We're done with the Frogger competition.
Yay!
And I think we can go on to something else. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye!